Good morning. Welcome to the Dr. Kennedy Podcast. Dr. Kennedy Podcast is sponsored by the Daniels Foundation for Impact Lessons and Development. That's the Daniels Foundation in Impact and Development at daniels-foundation.org. Good morning, folks, and I hope you had a nice week and a productive week. And we're here for another fantastic interview with Mr. Michael Graves. As a disclaimer, Michael's a friend. Known Michael all the way back since Little League. He was an outstanding pitcher and athlete. Mike is an outstanding professional guy. So I really want to talk to Mike because he's always been very on point, very refined, great dresser. From an early age, he was very religious. His family was very focused. And he's followed that pattern through life and kind of always been on a mission. There was always more than just about Mike. So Michael Graves has been community oriented and community focused, probably earlier than any young man I've known. And so it's going to really be interesting to listen to Mike's story, find out where his family came from, what his family intentions were for him. Has he met those intentions? Is he happy? What's going forward? So please welcome me, Mr. Michael Graves, and we'll talk to Michael on the other half and learn all about his education, his profession, and some of his beliefs in helping the Black community. So thank you very much. Please support the Daniels Foundation at daniels-foundation.org. Doesn't matter, size, 50 cents, dollar, whatever. Nice just to see somebody going to the website and clicking on the donation button, because these interviews they're not free, they're not cheap. It takes time and money and resources to bring all these things along with the other programs that we're trying to do. And also hope with the book coming out, all the proceeds from the book will go toward to financing a large part of the foundation. So any support is appreciated. Thank you, folks. Michael Graves on the other side. Thank you very much. Good morning, folks. We are now live with Mr. Michael Graves. We just had a nice little intro for you, Mike. How you doing, Mike? Good morning. What's going on?
I'm fine. It's great to be here, Kenny. It's great to be recognized by one of your peers. This is a great opportunity for me.
Oh, man, people don't realize, I said your intro said, Mike Graves was probably one of the most focused and mission-driven young men ever at a young age. That it was always more than about you, Mike, back when you was 10 years old. So maybe when we get to talk, you tell people why, you kind of had a broader vision, that you knew that you were going to be okay, you could help others. So why don't you first say a few words to folks, just in general, what you've been doing, and just say hello. What's on your mind?
Well, most of the people in the class of 78 from Eastern High School, I went to school with them probably from 6th grade to 8th grade at VLD. Right. And then I branched off and went to a different high school. But I've seen some interviews by some of my other peers, and it's good to know that we are still here and we're still doing things to make a difference.
Right, there you go. Let's jump into a little formality here. We got about an hour. So thank you. Happy holidays. Thank you for agreeing to do the interview. I'm down here in sunny Florida. You're up there with a little snow. I'm a representative.
Yeah, it did this week. We got 6 to 12 inches.
Yeah, so I see you got the hoodie on. I got
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that there.
The hoodie on here, bro. I let people know I broke out my short sleeve. I got the hair out today. Gray hair, but this hair is still hair. So can you talk a little about your, you mentioned a little bit your background educationally, then some of your formal education, and how you went into being a minister. Maybe some of that.
Well, leaving at the 8th grade from VLD, most of my friends went to East Orange High. I chose to go to Essex Catholic. It was different, but it was fun because the first game of the season, I always got to play East Orange High. So I got to play against some of the people I grew up with. So that was always a fun meeting. Childhood-wise, we had a great time in the childhood at Washington Park. We had a great time there. I never really set out to be a minister. I went to Georgia in 2005, actually chasing a skirt. But once I got there, the Lord had other plans for me. And I think I came back for the holidays in 2005, back to Jersey to be with my family. And I preached my first sermon at Christmas night So I've been preaching ever since 2005.
A long time. Wow, that's beautiful. Okay. So, you kind of mentioned, to me, Washington Park was like a family. And I know you live across the street from the park, but can you talk about, your family's impact in the formative years and what person or persons were, important in your life, kind of coming out of, I guess, up the way?
Well, my grandmother gave me my background with the Word of God because she would stay in that book, and sometimes she would always have me by her side, kind of studying with her, praying with her, and things of that nature. Between her and my mother, those were two strong people. They taught me my worth ethic. They taught me to always believe in yourself and to go on even when everybody else says no. And I know that's to be true because when I played Pop Warner football, that first year, I wasn't well known and I wasn't very good. And I didn't get in many games, but I refused to quit the team. I was there at every practice and every game. I refused to quit. And so in life, it's taught me that I never quit. No matter what the opposition shows me, I never quit.
I remember we were kind of at Washington Park. You came in like a newcomer. So where'd you move from? You came in like a blast. Like, who this guy kicking his leg up and pitching the ball and talking smack? Like, where'd you come from? Like, who is this guy?
Well, in 1969, I moved to East Orange from Avon Avenue in Newark.
Okay.
In 69. And, I really got introduced to baseball, I guess, playing with the Sweeneys. Do you not know at the age of 12, Donald Sweeney, he was 3 years ahead of me. I pitched a no-hitter against 15-year-olds
right
at Washington Park. And that was like amazing. That's like unheard of. And but we had a great family in the Washington Park area.
I probably caught that game. I probably caught it. Like,
you probably did. And we had such a great family. There were so many great people that you got engulfed in the sports world, not only because of the sport, but the camaraderie and being with each other.
It was unbelievable. I don't think people can grasp. People from East Orange maybe will grasp, but one of the kind of paint a picture for the larger audience in the world is that the Black community back then was tight knit. We were family. Sweeney's, Harris's, Graves, Daniels, Robinsons.
That's right.
It was like all around it. And if I went over your house, your mom would be like, "Okay, I'm gonna watch you right here. Don't get out of line because I'll tell your mother."
Exactly.
They would tell your mother in a second, like, you do that, okay, yes ma'am, no ma'am, or yes, no, you're respectful. So different time. And so, kind of talk about that, you handsome, charismatic guy, like I said, kicking the leg up, Juan Marichal. So how did you go on with you said, that's interesting. So you went to Essex Catholic. Who were some of your friends, classmates, and what kind of person were you at Essex Catholic? Definitely was a transition.
Yeah, it was a different type of discipline there. It was a all boys prep like St. Benedict's.
Right.
So we didn't have any girls there, which I'm thankful for because I may not have graduated had they been there.
Right.
It was a different discipline. It made you be more responsible for what you're doing and the purpose you're doing it. Right. Nobody led you by the hand. You had to become a man a lot sooner. Essex Catholic was a great time. I never thought I could have had such a good time being there with all men for 4 years. Me and some of my classmates, we still keep in touch today because I later moved to Hillside.
Yeah, but can you talk about, I'm sure that Essex Catholic was a little bit more integrated back then. It's probably like BLD, we probably all Black, so there must have been a little bit of, I guess, white classmates. So how did you respond to that? We had some white, friends at Washington Park, per se. We wasn't all Black, but what was your reaction to that? How did they treat you? What was your mindset going into that type of environment?
Well, in 74 and 75 was a transitional time between Blacks and whites still.
Right.
And But for the most part, we didn't have racial tensions in that school. We got along with the white boys. A lot of them was Italian from Harrison and down the neck. A couple of mafia bosses, sons were there in our classes. But we didn't, that's one thing we didn't have. We didn't have racial tension. We didn't have that.
You know, because it was all around us, you know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of, I guess the school was a haven, and you know, probably having, you know, religious background, Catholic, you know, you kind of know that you just left it at the door, maybe. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we didn't have that. Even at Washington Park, I remember there was a white girl that lived above the pharmacy on the corner. Her name was Christine Guido. But she would come over, she could play softball, she could play kickball right with us, and there wasn't any problem.
Right. That's interesting, you know. So let me go off track here a little bit, because at an early age you were a smooth vessel. You was wearing bow tie. You was the first guy I ever saw on a bow tie thing back then. You had your suit, you press. Where'd that come from? Where this whole dressing, you know, looking sharp come from?
Well, my aunt was Sarah Vaughn, and my mother traveled around the world with her at least 3 times before she came off the road to raise me.
Really? Wow.
And yeah, my mother had gotten a couple of awards for Best Dressed Woman in New Jersey. And so style always came with our upbringing and how we dress and put things together. And I didn't always follow mainstream. I kind of just did my own thing, which made me stand out.
You threw a name out there. I got to dig a little further, because somebody just threw out the name Sarah Vaughn. So give me a little. So she was your aunt?
Yes. Wow. We lived in her father's house on Avon Avenue.
She was from North?
Yes, she was. As a matter of fact, my mother and my mother's friends all put their coins together that particular night so that she would have transportation money to go to the Apollo, which she won that night.
Wow, so you got to ask these questions, because you never know. These little stories come out, these little nuggets. It's beautiful. I know, but you know, I never heard you sing though, so I don't know. You got the dress, you get the voice down. I don't know. Did you? You blow?
I have to sing in church now and again. I have to lead songs. Yeah.
Got you. So you know, you kind of went on to this, you know, this great career, and so you talk about. I think I want to hear you talk about, because, like I said, you were a professional and a student at a young age. What do you see change in your career over time, you know, professionally, in terms of, you know, whether it's work attitude, you know, how people interact with each other? I want, because I know you kind of approach the community aspect of work. What have you seen in terms of people interaction over time in your career? Maybe give us a few examples.
Well, career-wise, we all evolve. You know, when we between the ages of 18 and 25, sometimes the biggest thought on our mind is, what are we going to wear out Friday night? And so a job is just a job. It's just a place to get money. But then as we mature, we start looking for a career more than just a job. And I was so happy to find out that you were listed as Dr. Kenneth Daniels. I was so proud when I heard the mention of that, because there was talk that they wanted you to come back to East Orange and run for mayor at one time. But yeah, you evolve in your career. Of course, I've evolved in my ministerial career, from being on milk to being on meat now, because you have to grow in the word. And you do that in your life too, as you mature. You know, certain things that used to mean something to you, they're no longer of value, but you have greater things to replace them.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So now let's get back to the sports, because you know you had a little game. Now Essex Catholic, you played baseball, correct?
I only played freshman year. There was some still prejudices at that time.
Gotcha.
And so The militancy in me wouldn't allow me to stay in that environment, so I didn't play anymore after freshman year.
But I know you kept your eye on sports. Like you said, you saw me play. So I'm just curious that from what you've seen in, Northeast Orange, Essex Catholic, whatever, who are some of the top 5 athletes you kind of seen around as you've been around the playground at East Orange? What's the names that kind of any sport? I'll give you leeway. Go any sport, anywhere, anything.
Wow. In Essex County, we had so many great players in the 70s. I mean, we had some great players. And, like I saw, Edgar Jones play.
That's a name there, yeah.
Even my team, Essex Catholic, we had pretty much a stacked squad in 74.
Yeah.
And when we came to Seton Hall University to play East Orange High with Cleve Eugene and Mike Booker and those guys, and they beat us. I still had East Orange pride, even though I was watching my school play.
Right.
I don't have a lot of East Orange football players, but Mike Dabney kind of got me interested in basketball.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
And in our neighborhood, we had a lot of good players. I mean, we had Dasher, we had Kim Fisher there. Yeah. You had Ron Harris there. You had all around athletes like Mark Copeland. So we had a plethora of people. We had, Thomas Lynch that played baseball, first base. We, Tommy Bowens down the street. So we had a plethora of athletes in our neighborhood alone. And, Kevin Brown.
You don't realize, let me just announce the order. Think of each other. Folks don't realize Washington Park, just on the full court, you have Ken Fisher, Tommy Bowen, Tony Martin, Big Mike, Ron will be out there talking.
Yeah.
Well, it was hot. I mean, then you had Copeland. Washington Park full court was hot.
Oh, it was something else. It was something else to watch. Indeed.
So you got, basically we was on the side back there and watching it and be like, when Fish come down, shoot that, cross the neck J, be like, man, he just netted. He just got to jump from he hit it.
But nothing meant more to me than baseball. I loved that the program that East Orange had when we would go from park to park to park, and every park had a team, and you got to play and meet people from other areas of East Orange. That meant so much to me in the 70s.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, now I got to jump back to reality. So, I can see you a friend, and you're a grassroots guy. You kind of have your ear on the ground, a lot of folks and people. So, can you talk about some of the struggles you've seen in the Black community, and what are some possible solutions, and what role does the religion play in terms of addressing some of these problems?
For me, the main problem of the Black community is the family. Everything my mother taught me and my sister, we taught her son and her daughter. Mm-hmm. I taught my younger sister and my niece. So everybody, it starts from the family. Yep. We want better communities, we got to get better families. We got to have parents that want to be parents and not friends to their children. Our parents loved us to death, and we knew that, but they were stern, and we did fear them to a certain extent. In order to fix a community, we got to fix these families. In other words, when your 12-year-old son comes home with $100 bill, you got to ask him, what did he do to get it? Instead of, can I have some? That's one of the problems I find in the Black community. Where religion plays a part in it, when we are taught who God wants us to be and how we should behave, that will give us a moral fiber that society can't give us. Society's morality is crazy, and that's why we got so many crazy things going on now. The morality that God sets for his people is what would keep us together. We have no church if we don't have any families. And so everything starts from the nucleus of that family. That's how we fix communities, and that's how how we can fix society. We got to get better families. better Black families.
That's a powerful answer. I know Michael Jordan's kind of working on that to his foundation. Um, it's interesting you say that because the fracturing of the Black family occurred primarily after our time period. So in our time period, we had strong families, we had strong communities. So there's evidence of what you're saying. And so that's I think that's something we have to have a theme on that. That's a theme that needs to be developed. Writing this book around Black family, and I was thinking more community. Well, I had not drilled down all the way down to family. I was thinking more individuals.
Right.
And so, having some family stories, like you said, like the Sweeneys were an incredible family.
Yes, they were.
So we kind of think, the Harrises were an incredible family, And so, it's one of those things that, I think sometimes we overlook what you just said. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah. Now, my contribution that I make here to work at that is that me and my nephew have an AAU program of basketball. Mm-hmm. But when I get the kids, most of them come from single parent families. What I teach them is more moral skills, people skills, and things that are going to take them further in life than basketball. So I don't just teach basketball. I teach them how to be young men, because it's more important. Everybody can't go to the NBA, but everybody's going to become a citizen in society. And so it's important that they know how to achieve their goals the right way. And that's what I teach them. First thing I do is clean up their language. That's the first thing. I don't let them address me as old unk or any of those things. They either call me Coach Graves or Coach. So first thing I have to do is clean up their language, because I believe if you can change how a person thinks, you can change his whole world.
Powerful, Mike. That's we're gonna have to follow. We can do some fun with that in the spirit, because I don't think a lot of people realize that the discipline you're talking about is transferable. These are life skills.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I know you probably feel the same way, that life skills I learned at Washington Park playing Little League baseball with Mike McNair. Mike was like the second father to me, Mm-hmm. I know we'll talk about that later, but the whole mentorship role, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it as mentorship, but essentially leadership. Providing some leadership for these young men, like you're saying, they come from a family that may not have a father, may not have a mother. They actually are looking for adult leadership, and when they don't find it, something fills the void. That's basically what you're saying.
Exactly. So strong men have to stand up and take on that responsibility. They can't wait for somebody else to do it. If not you, then who? If not now, then when? We have to take on that responsibility. If you say you want things to change, then you have to start to be the change that you want to see come forth. You can't wait for everybody else to do it. You have to make your contribution and make it count.
Right. Let's keep going with that. So, there's this whole Black Lives Matter movement. It attacks all industries and businesses. What do you see in terms of Black Lives Matter? What do you like, don't like? I'll give you free range, the question, and then I'll try to piggyback on something that you say.
I thought that Black Lives Matter is a great movement. But I struggle with one thing, and that is that, see, really, people don't change people. God changes people. You can't take officers and give them enough training to train away their hate. You can't train that away. He has to want to stop hating Black people. Since Black Lives Matter, I remember we was on a Zoom call at work, and two of the ladies was on the line, but they knew I was there, but I was silent. And she said, let me just get to the bottom of this. The problem is, and she's white, and the person she was talking to is white. The problem is that white people are afraid of Black people. Wow. Okay. She said that's the bottom line. Right. I think one of the fears may really be that if we do have intelligent minds, and if we grow to power like they're in power now, their fear is that we may do to them what they have done to us. I think that's their real fear. That's their real fear. I like Black Lives Matter. It's made maybe it's made some people be more aware of who they are and what their purpose is, that you're not just here to exist. I think it's giving people some type of platform and some type of direction and correcting things within their own neighborhoods, you know.
Let's drill down a little bit. So I think you make a very good point that Malcolm X said the chickens will come to roost, right? And I know that if I was a white parent, that I would be concerned that maybe my son is going to be impacted in a certain way. But as you know, with any problem or any use of this opportunity. So if you're a white parent and your child was grown up in, let's say, without any diversity, that's also a problem.
That is.
So the point is, I think one of the messages that has to be delivered to white America that it's no longer either or. It's got to be in some way an answer to both.
There is, yeah.
No diversity, not expect that your son's not going to be a racist, or when he interacts with communities of color, that he doesn't know what to do. The fellow that spoke earlier, he talked about that in terms of teachers. They come from predominantly white backgrounds, but they want to teach in minority neighborhoods, and now they come in, all they know is what they see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? What do you think some of the problems come out of that? Kind of leads what you say, that a person that doesn't have exposure is afraid. How do we kind of diffuse some of this diversity into their mindset in a very, edible way?
One thing is, we have to have some media where we can project a different look for us. I do like Tyler Perry because now he has a media that per se other people can't shut it down. Okay. So the things that he wants us to know about us, he can present those on his network, and nobody can tell him not to do it. That's what we need. Otherwise, when others who are in control of a Black network, they present to us what they want us to look like. And the rest of the world looks at this, and that's what they think we actually look like or are. It could be so far from the truth. The CEO of my company had a Zoom call with us, me and some of my coworkers, and he asked about this Black Lives Matter. This is what I told him. I told him I'm 6'4" and 296 pounds. When I get pulled over by a policeman and he asked me to step out of the car, he's automatically going to be intimidated, especially if he's only 5'8" or shorter. And so I said, it is at that point I have to worry about, am I going to make it home to my wife or not? I said, you never have to think about that.
Very powerful, yeah. The whole.
But see, they don't have a problem when I'm 6'4" running touchdowns. I'm good then.
Right.
But when I'm driving the car and get pulled over, now I'm feared.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing of the, like you say, the stereotype. And it's not just Black men, it's Black women. I see some horrible videos of Black women being pulled over and pulled out the car. And someone mentioned to me, in fact, it was the other day, Reverend Dunn, I don't know if you know Craig Dunn, Reverend Craig Dunn.
Yes.
And he said to him, Black Lives Matter is just a minimum standard. It's just a level of saying, I'm gonna recognize you and respect you. And the question to you is that, if, let's assume we get respect, what would you like to see next in Black Lives Matter in terms of economic development? You kind of mentioned your CEO. So now corporations are taking note. We're seeing more Black faces on TV. We're seeing opportunity. But in some ways, this could be a Band-Aid. For example, if you just throw money at the problem, we know that doesn't cure everything. So what should we be looking for in terms of maybe talk about corporations. What would you like to see corporations embrace in terms of human development, people development, and so forth?
Wow, now that's a big one. Um, in in Black communities, there's got to be more job opportunities, where we get to use our minds and not always our brawn. You see, living here in Essex County, I see a lot of things happen. Like whenever I see them doing road work and repairing corners and things like that, I never see people of color laying bricks. I never see that.
Right.
It's always Portuguese or somewhere down that line. I never see people of color doing that job. Like, do we not know how to lay bricks, lay a sidewalk and concrete? Yes, we do, but we don't get those opportunities. They go to others. They have to be a little bit more diverse in how these contracts are distributed. There's Black companies that can do great work, and they need to get some of these contracts too. The buddy system needs to kind of be demolished. The buddy system needs to be demolished. That way, the money just stays in that little circle. Nobody from outside gets into it, and that keeps the Black entrepreneurs out of the loop. You see.
Okay, so let me jump on that because something, I was in Virginia for 30 years, and then I came back to Essex County, and the first thing I noticed was the expansion of the opportunities for the Hispanic or Latin American community relative to Blacks in this area. Now, you know, mentioned North, and we know that the Neck and Portuguese and Velvet, and not to take anything away from them because, of course, they should look to prosper and promote there, but I was just astounded that it's clear to me that Black businesses have not grown at the same rate or have declined.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're alluding to here, that, if the opportunity set is not the same. So what do you attribute that to in terms of specifically that, that clearly there is a minority professional Black base here in North Jersey and New York and so forth, but it doesn't seem to be getting the same opportunity like you said, you were down in Georgia. Like Georgia is booming.
Yeah.
See some impediment, some structural impediment up here in the Northeast. What do you think it is?
Wow. The competitiveness. Well, it's funny. When you and I were growing up, we had Black-owned businesses in our neighborhood. We had a mom and pop candy store on the corner, things that way. We have no more Black-owned mom and pop candy stores anywhere. I have not seen one in over 10 years. Everything is a bodega on a corner. Not to take anything away from them, but we have none.
Right.
Now I don't know if I've seen what happens that somebody opened up a mom and pop shop here. They would only come in there when they wanted credit, when they needed a little help. When they had the full dollars, they went to the store next door. If we open up a soul food restaurant and the price is a couple of dollars more than the Chinese restaurant, they won't come in there. They'll go to the Chinese restaurant and leave their dollars there, which their dollars, once the Chinese get in their hand, it leaves the community and the country. Right. If you put it in a Black business's hands, it will be reused in that community. Have you ever seen a Black person working in a Chinese restaurant? No, but they're in all of our neighborhoods. But if you had a mom and pop store and you had a kid that was 10, 11, 12, like I was once, and Rollo, I don't know if you remember Rollo, the meat store on Sanford. He gave me a job in there.
Right.
So the mom and pop store would probably give your child 9, 10, 11, let him come to sweep floors and give him some change every day or something like that. But the other businesses won't. So we need to support one another and stop having the crab in the basket mentality or not wanting to see our brothers excel.
Right.
We have to lose that mindset.
Wow, that's a mouthful there. And it's good that we talk freely about these things so people get some idea of some of the inference we're making. It's not that we're saying we want to hold people back or we just want fair, equal treatment, and it's not happening. So let me shift gears on someone who's special to me.
Okay.
And he was a mentor to me, and you mentioned that you went into Rallo and got a job, and I'm sure y'all did that he gave you some wisdom, words of wisdom of this is how you come to work, This is what you do. This is what you do, indirect or indirect.
Mm-hmm.
And another person that did that for us was Mike McNair.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that in terms of the stature each orange, that Mike never got proper attention in terms of what his contribution, his mind. He was a fireman, he gave freely of his time. Can you talk about what Mike meant to you and maybe give me a couple of examples of things some words of wisdom or events that really impacted you?
Well, you know, actually, I think we only had Mike one summer at Washington Park. Then we only have him one summer. Then it was a guy named Allen. Then it was Hodge.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember, we only had Mike for one summer. But I think when I had Mike then, I was just getting into baseball. But it was so funny because he used to always call me Michael Free Throw. He didn't know that Free Throw was just my nickname. But that's what
I want to go there, Mike. I'll call you Minister Mike. I wasn't going there. See, we stick you now. I wasn't going there, but you went there. Go ahead.
But he somewhat took a liking to me, and you know, I'm very proud of my childhood. That a lot of times when people thought baseball, they thought of my name. They thought my name would come to their mind pretty quickly, and you know. He was a stern cat, but he taught me fundamentals of baseball.
Yeah,
he taught me fundamentals of baseball. And you know, well, you know, I had many men around the neighborhood that would take interest in teaching a young man. Like my neighbor across the street, he taught me how to use a sprayer to paint the windows of his house. And he gave me a little change for that, but he taught me how to do that. I had other men around the neighborhood that would take a young man and teach him something that he could use, you know? But Mike gave me that foundation and fundamentals of baseball. And I could sit down and talk with him and tell him what my thoughts was, even though I was only 12 years old. But he would listen. He would take time and listen. Yeah, he would take time and listen.
It's funny you mentioned the minute. I can remember Mark Copeland's father coming over and teach us how to field balls. And Mr. Copeland was like, he was a fantastic athlete. Of course, Mark was. But you're right, they took, you know, somewhere they found the time to take time to show us how to do things right. You know,
yeah.
You know, whether it's baseball, basketball, you sit there and you know, get back to Mike. You know, I remember that he was very, very short of stature, right?
Yeah.
He was a little guy, but the personality was big. And you know, so I remember that, you know, he came in there and right away you had to be awake. I know we come in because we've been in the park all day. So you might get there 8, 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you woke up real quick. You didn't say you didn't come there and sleep. Sometimes I see these kids, they be sitting there like groggy, like what it was not, I can't imagine being a young man being groggy by Mike. He gets smacked in the head or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he would kind of grit his teeth and he would haul off.
Right. You got like I smacked the head a couple times. Now today that might be, you know, wasn't abuse, but he did it hard. Just wake up. Come on, we here. Let's get it going. You know.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if you remember that you kind of alluded to earlier that, you know, morning we be on those buses. You know, we go to Washington, we go to Savo, and you know,
Oval Park.
And so people realize that you got exposure, you know, just from one side of town to the other, and then I don't know if you remember this, the lunches.
Oh yeah, the lunches.
And so when I was talking to Donna Hahn, he said, look, Ken, we were a product of affirmative action. That, you know, we got these lunches in the park. But, you know, it's interesting that Mike kind of oversaw that, you know, he was teaching us, he was feeding us, you know, he was chaperone.
Yeah.
And so all these different hats, all in a very short period of time. And, you know, I just basically said, thank you. So if you would say a thank you to Mike, what would you say to Mike in terms of what he did?
Wow. I would thank Mike for giving me a solid foundation in sports ethics and how to do things the right way. And I would thank thank him for taking time with me and being patient. It's taught me how to be patient with others today. Even today, his early teachings have taught me things that I've kept throughout my life with me. It's taught me how to be patient with people. And if you want somebody to understand, teach them. They'll understand. Just teach them.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I appreciate that. So, you know, we're almost coming up on our hour here, but I want to take you back on the question because I really think this, you know, it kind of hits what I'm trying to accomplish here, you know. So, you know, this whole idea of entrepreneurship, you know, you kind of mentioned it in terms of, you know, we don't see black mom and pop. So I want to jump over that because a lot of times, you know, black mom and pop is not feasible because of technology. And I know you see technology is impacting everything, religion, and so forth. Mm-hmm. So from a technological standpoint, you kind of mentioned in terms of Tyler Perry and media control. You know, and I want you to think about this in terms of digitization, because you know, it's amazing me we now have these mega churches, mm-hmm. and they're going virtual and expansion of going. What do you think we, in terms of entrepreneurial spirit, in terms of you know, control and globalism, what should be the emphasis in terms of the youth?
Of the youth?
Of the youth, yeah. Because because that's really, you know, you and I, we've had our day. You know, some young adults, they got a little potential, but they really had their day. You know, when you're 40, it's really over. You may think you got another window, but you know, you probably shot your shot, and you know, you probably achieved. But if you're a young black man, a young black woman, and you're, you know, 18, 19, 20, the world is opening up really early to you from day one. So what would you like to see in terms of that, you know, from entrepreneur, technology, media, so forth? That's a big question, I know, but you can run with it any way you
want. Wow. I push entrepreneurship because no job is ever yours if you punch in the clock. They can tell you tomorrow, sorry, we don't need you no more. One thing I admire about my mother, she had her own beauty parlor. Nobody could ever tell her, nobody could ever give her a pink slip. Same industries there's plenty of industries that a young man could get with a group of other young men and say, listen, let's open up a business that does this. And they can pull their resources and begin to do something else, just like some of these other big companies do. For instance, there's a group of brothers here that are into real estate. They're doing quite well. So they gave not only my church 1,000 turkeys, I think they gave a couple of other churches 1,000 turkeys to be given away for Thanksgiving. But they got together and started their own real estate group, and they're doing well. And so black people, young ones, you got to see what's supply and demand, what's in need today, what's going on in the industry, what's in need today. And if you can get you a couple of other brothers or sisters, and you say, listen, let's pull our resources together, let's start this company, and we're going to provide this service and be competitive with the other ones. That's how we can come up. Because for those 4 or 5 people to get together and start it, they open up another office. Now you hire 4 or 5 of your other brothers. Now everybody's growing. Everybody's growing. Young people have to see successful black people, and they have to see them in a light when they're not playing basketball, they're not dancing on the stage, and they're not telling a joke on Saturday Night Live. They have to learn how to speak correctly, talk with the right diction, and to hold down a career of longevity. Because basketball players stop playing at some point, they're going to have to do something else to earn a living. Entertainers have to stop. Those who lose their voice in a later age, they still have to do something to earn a living. So the mind is more valuable than the temporary talent.
I hear you. That's beautiful. You know, it's kind of interesting that you kind of say that because, you know, you only still the gravy train, the physical gravy train for so long. The body breaks down, and you got to shift to the mental. And you've done that. You mentioned how, Essex Catholic, fortunately, you did that just a little earlier and so forth. So, we're kind of coming up with an hour. So, I want to thank you, but, before I let you go, I want to, so, so what are some of your hopes and dreams for the future? Are you tired? You see yourself retiring, shutting it down, or moving to stay in Jersey? What's the Michael Graves plan going forward?
Well, my plan is always to get back to Georgia to work under my minister there. My goal is that God, I will show myself approved, that God would grant me to be the minister of my own congregation. That is my dream and my hope. My short-term goal is probably next year I'll finish my degree in biblical studies and divinity. I'll finish that next year. And so, but that's my hope, is to be a minister of my own congregation somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't want to stay in Jersey. I want to get back to Atlanta. That was like the land of milk and honey for me. I want to go back to Atlanta so bad.
Oh yeah, that's the chocolate city.
Economics wise, it was very good for me. You see the inflation. Like if you lived, I lived there, and I came back here, and everything here is double what I was paying out there. Absolutely. Everything is double.
Yeah. I kind of lost my train of thought when you was talking about entrepreneurial. Now it's kind of come back to me, is that you made a very important point there about the pooling of resources. And I think it's important that we kind of draw that out a little bit, because, a lot of times, and I don't know why, when I was at the School of Business, the question was, can you teach entrepreneurship? Mm-hmm. Skill, or is it something developed? And of course, because of the School of Entrepreneurship, they feel to be taught. And this whole idea of pooling resources and delegating power and management is very important. And a lot of times that is something that you said, like you mentioned, these 4 or 5 brothers got together. We don't see enough of that in our community. Certain things, investment clubs, people get together, but we need to see more of that, the pooling of resources, pooling capital, because your weakness is now made up by somebody else. Now you can go to a banker and say, look, here's the business plan. Mm-hmm. My finances might be B minus. This guy over here is A plus. Mm-hmm. So A plus B minus is no longer B minus, because they're looking at the team. Right. And so, this whole team concept I think it's something that we try to build on in terms of the African community, that, we define teams in every industry and service. That's right. It's funny you mentioned that, because it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, when I found out that in Maryland, we have a Black-owned business that makes toiletries, toilet paper, all of that stuff. Black-owned and everything. Yeah. Manufacturing everything. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know we had Black people that were in that industry, because we don't see them on television. We don't see advertisements on television stuff, but they got a very viable business producing, like I said, the toilet paper and paper towels and things like that there. I'm not sure right now what the brand is, but I saw that. I was like, wow, I didn't even know we had anybody in that industry. I know, so wow. And it goes back to your point about controlling media. It's like, why don't we see that? So we have this whole Black Lives Matter push, and even the networks now, they're still dragging their feet in terms of, the type of Black person we see, the projection of the Black image, this person's Black industry, the advertising, it's the whole gamut. And so, like you mentioned, Tyler Perry's able to push that, but even there, you see there's still a lid on things. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna hit you with something else, because Mr. Dunn, Reverend Dunn, hit me this other day, and I was like, wow, that's this concept. He went to this whole point of Black resistance. That no matter what we do economically, socially, there always will be, the powers will always be against, be some type of Black resistance. He talked about in the 1960s, there was the assassination. And then he said that now there's MAGA. So let me just start with you. So let's say we go through some Black renaissance economically. Mm-hmm. And you kind of mentioned the thing about Black fear. What do you think that we'll still meet this Black resistance to Black success? Black excellence, is black excellence a threat to the world?
Wait, tell me that question one more time.
Is black excellence a threat to the world? So you know that as we become empowered, white America automatically and naturally threatens us because now we're competitive. That it's okay when we can compete when you got your foot on my neck. But now you take my foot off of it, now let's compete. Now it's a fair game.
Yeah.
So,
well, as we know, there was a Caucasian kid that lived about 4 houses from me. And this is what he would do. Between me and Rick Sweeney would be out there playing with him. When he got ready to pit one of us against the other, he would change the rule in the game to make one of us leave.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His name was Guy Raffa.
I know the guy, yeah.
Yeah. He would only say, well, Rick, you come on in the house with me, which meant I had to go. But when we get on, I watched it, when we get on even playing ground, when they find out that we can win like they win at this particular game, then they change the rules. Wow. They never mean for us to be on the even keel with them. They will change the rule. When you start getting close to them, using the same system tools that they use to achieve, they'll change the rules. Just to be treated as a human being and equal is something a little, this might sound strange, but that might be a little bit better than the other way, because they never want us to achieve as much as them. They never do. They always have to feel like they're superior in some part of the economics and everything. They gotta feel like they're superior. But if you treat me like a human being, you treat me fairly like a human being, that's something different from the economics and all of that. There's no threat to treating me like a human being instead of 3/5 of one. There's no threat there. Right. If I could get that fair shake, they're not, like I said, they're not going to let you go but so far here. There's always going to be a lid that they keep. They let us a certain few of us achieve certain heights, and some of us will sit back and say, wow, we're really making strides. But they only allow those few to get through there. They're not letting everybody get through there. Personally, I was mad at the owner of BET when he sold it, because I said, we need a media outlet that can show us what we need to see. People will knock the Nation of Islam, but there's one thing I want to say about Farrakhan. Nobody can tell him what to say. Nobody can silence him when he's telling the truths about things, because that is his media outlet. And we had that with BET. But I know that as soon as he sold it, all of a sudden they start putting on blaxploitation movies, show us as pimps, hookers, and thieves. I saw how it changed really quick, you see? And so if they keep showing these images, then that's what people think we are, That's what we think we are, That's why I'm happy when I see good drama where the people like the Huxtables, they live in a house. They're not in an apartment like Good Times. Yes, Black people do live in homes. Yes, they do. All Black people that have money don't act crazy, because she was a lawyer and he was a doctor. These were positive images of Black people. I love that show, if only for that reason alone, because it sent a different picture out to America,
Mike, those are beautiful answers. I want to thank you, my brother. You're looking good. I wish I could jump through the screen and hug you, because that's how we went back to the day.
For real, man.
Thank you, and say a few words on the other side, but we pretty much come up with an hour, and I'll let you take us out with a few words of wisdom, anything you like to do.
Well, what I would like to say to everybody is that never let anything be first in your life but God. God being second in your life is not an option. If you keep God first in your life, you can go a lot further. When this country has removed God from everything, it's trying to remove him from everything. You remove him from schools. You can't say a prayer here. You can't say a prayer there. But one thing I know, I would never remove God from my life because that is the guiding light. I want to thank you for having me, man. I've had a pleasure, man. It was a sad day, but it was a good day for me at the same time when I went to your father's wake, because all those people in the neighborhood I grew up with, some of the people I ever went to school with up to the 8th grade, I got to see them. And I said, man, this is all my family here again. I got to see so many people. Reconnecting with you is just a real blessing. It's a real blessing.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna see. When I come out of this Florida heat back up to the Jersey cold, I'll look you up. Right now, I'm going to get a jacuzzi or something like that.
I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you, Ken.
All right, Mike. Thank you, brother. Happy holidays.
Listen, happy holidays to you too. And whenever you're going to broadcast this or something, you'll send me a message just telling me it's.
I'm gonna download it, email it right back to you.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, listen. Take care, my friend.
Peace, Mike.
Peace.
Yep.